The biggest challenge I face when planting a forest garden is finding all the plants that I don't know about. Welcome to Food Forest Living. My name is Rachel, and in this video I put together a list of clay-tolerant plants using the help of a plant database called plantsforafuture.org. With this list, I'm going over all the plants that I want to get my hands on to create a widely diverse, soil-enriching understory to prepare our clay valley for a food forest. And we struggle with heavy clay soil that is very compacted. And so our goals with these plants is to add organic matter and use plants with roots that will create pathways into the compacted clay. The first plants that we're going to be including into our plan of action is weeds. We're going to be letting the natural native weeds take hold of the clay and do what they came to help us do. The ones that I'm able to identify are thimbleberries, blackberries, strawberries, clover, sumac, mullein, strawberry spinach, various grasses, thistles, and dandelions, and the rest I'm unfamiliar with. But the reasons I want to let the weeds take hold is because I noticed this year that the clay is worse in areas that the weeds have not yet visited. And that's because weeds can actually be beneficial. They're growing for a reason. I'll link a useful video right up here. Now, the first actual plant that I'm going to be going out and getting my hands on is Daikon Radish. Daikon Radish grows in zones 2 to 11, and they break up clay down to about 2 feet long. Because you know, when you go to the grocery store, you can see some pretty long daikon radishes. And when they rot in the ground, if you leave them to rot, they build a lot of organic mass. So I'm going to be eating some, and I'm going to be leaving some as well, so that they can flower and seed, so I can take the seed and let the rest of them rot in the ground to help the clay improve. Globe artichoke is the next plant, growing in zones 3 to 11. They have tap roots that go down into the soil, and so they're going to be creating the pathways for air and water to get down into instead of being waterlogged on the top of the surface. And we can harvest their buds to eat, and then you just chop and drop the plant and let it compost in place. Yarrow is the next plant, growing in zones 3 to 9. It's great for chop and drop. It is also edible and can be used medicinally. And the other great thing is that it attracts beneficial insects. So we're definitely going to be wanting to grow a food forest with many beneficial aspects as possible while we're trying to improve our clay situation. Now this plant, I already have my hands on it, and I definitely recommend that you get your hands on it too. It is Comfrey, and this grows in zones 3 to 9. It's an excellent green mulch for every garden. It's an absolute must-have plant for your garden. It has deep tap roots that go into the ground, and they bring up all sorts of nutrients that are deep down and stored in their leaves so that you can chop them up finer so that you can lay it down on the surface of your soil and keep building it up. And you can even harvest this plant, I think it was about 3 to 4 times a season without having to fertilize it. So it's just an excellent green mulch plant. There's a couple things that you'll need to know about it in terms of which variety to buy. And I can go over that in another video if you would like me to. Just mention the comments below, and I will probably make that sometime in the future. Hairy vetch, that's the next plant, and it is hardy down to zones 4. This has deep roots as well. It's nitrogen fixing, and it's a great companion plant to tomatoes, which is definitely something we all love to grow. Tomatoes, they store well as sauces in many uses, so it's recommended that you plant hairy vetch before you plant your tomatoes. The next plant is a Goumi Berry shrub. It's zones 5 to 9. This is a nitrogen-fixing plant. It has very nutritious berries with fatty acids as well, and it's apparently suitable for heavy clay soil, but it prefers well-draining soil as well. So you'll definitely, if you wanted to plant that in a clay, waterlogged area, you definitely want to amend that with lots of organic matter, as I would attempt to do with any of these plants in the hole that you dig for it. The great thing about the Goumi Berry bush is that it can grow in nutritionally poor soils as well. Not to say that clay is nutritionally poor, it's not, but it's just overall a lower maintenance plant that isn't too picky. Buckwheat, that is the next one. I love to eat buckwheat seeds. They are delicious raw or cooked, and it is a great alternative for anyone who's gluten-free. So according to Temperate Climate Permaculture, which is another website I can link below, it can be hardy down to zones 7 or maybe 6, and I imagine that you could probably microclimate that and perhaps get away with it in the right conditions in zone 6. The great thing about buckwheat is it's a very fast growing cover crop, and it also breaks down quickly. So it would add a lot of organic matter to the soil by using it as a chop and drop system. And I have to mention that there is a lot of information about buckwheat that I did not know, so I provided an additional link below if you're interested in learning more about buckwheat. Clover, typically zones 3 to 10 kind of range. There are many different kinds of clover you can get. They are in the legume family, so they are nitrogen fixing, and they're very easy to seed. I love that they're the most cheap and available ground cover available, and they are a great replacement for grass. For anyone who has grass lawns, I would highly encourage that you consider planting clover instead of a grass lawn, because there's no need to heavily fertilize it like a lawn, and it serves a very important purpose for pollinators, which lawns are kind of like pretty looking dead zones. Pear tree or apple tree. They can grow in clay soils. They need good drainage, dig big and add lots of organic matter. I would definitely do research on the variety that you're buying if they have a waterlogging tolerance. Roses can do well in clay because it is often concentrated in minerals and nutrition, but it will require plenty of organic matter for drainage. So if you're going to plant roses, then you might want to mix in lots of organic material into the clay that you're putting back into the hole that you dug for it. The next plant is Forsythia. It's generally easy care. They're an early spring flowering plant, and they can adapt to heavy clay. So it's just another option in your books. And we definitely want to have as much diversity as possible in any garden that we plant. Flowering quince. It grows in zones 4 to 8, prefers drainage like most plants, but can grow in heavy clay. The fruit that it produces are suitable for jams and apparently has more vitamin C content than a lemon. So those are the plants that I found so far that would probably do okay in your heavy clay area that will also help your soil at the same time. And I'm sure that there are plenty more plants that will do well and improve these conditions of heavy clay. Please let us know in the comments which ones you know of so that we can all improve our heavy clay situations. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.